But we are going to go now live because Giselle Pelicot is speaking now. She's come out of court. So we're going to take that live right now.
You can hear me.
C'est que vous mettez la perche sur le papier là. Donc il faut juste reculer les perches.
Please just move back slightly. I'm here to say I'm very emotional. Please, if you could respect my emotional state as much as possible. Thank you. It's with a lot of emotion that I'm here to make a statement. This case was a very difficult test for me. And I'm thinking first and foremost of my 3 children, David, Caroline and Florian. I'm also thinking about my grandchildren because they are the future. And for them, I wanted to really put this struggle forward. Aurore and Céline as well. I'm thinking about all the other families affected by this case and the non-recognized victims. In these stories that are often in the shadows, you must know you share my struggle. I'd like to express my gratitude, my deepest gratitude to all the individuals who have supported me throughout this, with the witness statements and the testimonials. This really gave me strength to come back day after day for this long trial. I'd like to thank the Association for Support of Victims who have supported me throughout, and all the journalists who have followed my case since its beginnings. I'd like to thank you and recognise the faithful and respectful treatment of the case that you have daily given. My lawyers, I thank you. Thanks for supporting me throughout this long journey. I wanted, when I started on the 2nd of September, to ensure that society could actually see what was happening, and I never have regretted this decision. I have now faith in our capacity to collectively take hold of a future in which everybody, women and men, can live together in harmony, in respect and mutual understanding. Thank you.
That was Giselle Pelicot speaking outside the court in Avignon in France. As you've just been hearing, Dominique Pelicot has been sentenced to 20 years in prison after being convicted of all charges in the rape trial that has shocked France. For years, he drugged his ex-wife, Giselle Pelicot, and invited strangers into their home to rape her. The charges on which he was found guilty included aggravated rape, the attempted aggravated rape of the wife of one of his co-defendants, and taking indecent images of his daughter, Caroline. In total, 51 defendants were sentenced to a cumulative total of 439 years in prison. This was the sound of applause as Giselle Pelicot arrived at the court in Avignon. Well, I'm joined now by the Times' Paris correspondent Adam Sage. Hello, Adam.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us, Adam. Look, Dominique Pelicot's sentence is 20 years. Most of the other 50 men received sentences shorter than the prosecutors had asked for. What's the reaction been in France to the length of those sentences?
Well, certainly amongst the feminists outside the court, there's a lot of anger and a lot of disappointment. Giselle Pelicot herself didn't comment on the sentences. She just said that she noted them. But her children issued a comment to Agence France-Presse, the French press agency, to say that they were disappointed with them. So I think that the issue now is whether the prosecutors appeal against those sentences if they judge them, as a lot of people are judging them, to be too low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Look, and I hope it's not intrusive to ask, but how did Giselle Pelicot look? How did she react as the verdicts were being handed down?
Well, I saw her coming into court and coming out of court afterwards. I mean, she looked very as immaculate as ever, very well dressed in white trousers and and a black coat. There were only a handful of journalists in the courtroom, and I wasn't one of them when the verdicts were being read out. The handful of French journalists who were there said that she barely reacted. Her children expressed some displeasure and discontent and irritation with some of the sentences, not for their father, Dominique Pelicot, but for the other defendants, who were, as you say, considerably lower than those for the prosecutors had asked for.
And what's the atmosphere been like outside court then? Because we can see that there are big crowds, there are riot police, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, I mean, tense. I mean, it's enough riot police to keep it in order, but certainly very tense this morning when some of the defendants who hadn't been remanded in custody, who were free, they walked into the courtroom. They were booed and hissed. There's also been tension and quite a lot of discontent. At the verdicts amongst the people out of the courtroom. I think they were expecting the judges to follow the prosecutors. The prosecutors had asked for verdicts of between 4 and 18 years for the other 50 defendants, that is, apart from Dominique Pelicot. The verdicts handed down by the judges are between 3 and 15 years, so considerably lower. And there are quite a number of defendants for whom prosecutors had asked for 12 to 14 years in prison and who are getting less than 10 years in prison. A total of 6 of the defendants are receiving sentences so low that because they've been in custody, they would have effectively served their sentences and walk free. So that has angered a lot of people outside the court, police are keeping it in check, but there's certainly tension.
We've also learned that 11 of the men involved in this awful crime still haven't even been identified.
That's right. Well, more than 11, I think, is the answer. Police know that at least 72 men went into the bedroom of the Pelicot's house in Mazan between 2011 and 2020. They know because he said so, and because the films that he took of all the rapes and that he filed away very carefully on his computer, they show that. It may be more than 72, of course, but we know it's at least 72. The police identified 51 of them, but haven't been able to identify the others. The chances are they never will be identified now.
How is Giselle Pelicot seen in France finally, Adam? I mean, what are people writing? What are people saying? What's your understanding of her her status and her perceived character now?
She's become an icon, very clearly, a feminist icon. At the start of the trial, the French press was certainly covering it. The French media were covering it. They were here, but nothing like the proportions that they've been covering it. At the end of the trial, her decision to waiver anonymity has totally transformed both this trial and also, I think, to a large extent, the way that French looks at its own rape culture, if I could put it like that. Rape to a lot of people was something that happened in a dark alley with a man, often a foreigner in the French eyes, coming up behind a woman. This case has shown that it isn't always that. Indeed, statistics show that majority of rapes are not that. That it's a rape that's happened in her home, perpetrated by her husband many times, and also bringing other men in to rape her as well. So it's had a very, very significant impact, I think, on the way French views rape.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, thank you very much indeed, Adam Sage. Adam is, of course, the Times' Paris correspondent, and you can, of course, follow that story with reporting and analysis from Adam and our other colleagues on the live page on thetimes.com right now.